kick off. Hello everyone. So I just want to thank you for joining us at the first cuEngage session of this week, where we're covering the digital member journey. During the session, please feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat bar and we will answer these at the end of the session. Or if you want to unmute your microphone and ask a question, please also feel free to do so. A little reminder that there is a spot prize for the most engaged participants, so don't be shy, ask loads of questions. We're actually going to warm people up with a couple of polls that will be published through the chat function now. So I'll talk through these little polls and give you a couple of minutes to complete them, and then we'll pass over to Jonny, who'll kick off the digital member journey. So if you just pop into the chat, there is a little poll in there.
Now joining.
Which digital channel are you currently utilising the most? Is it online banking, website, digital member onboarding, or e-signatures? Or if it's none of these, feel free to add a comment and let us know. Okay, getting a few votes in there. Website seems to be taking the lead so far. Okay, there's another poll in there now. Do you think we're ready for the World Organization Council of Credit Unions, the Challenge 2025 to digitise credit unions globally by 2025? Yes, we've got this. No, I don't think we're ready, or not sure yet. That seems to be pretty split down the three ways. And finally, we'll end on a little light-hearted one. Crisps, everyone's favourite savoury snack, but which is better? Tato, O'Donnell's, or Walker's? I vote Tato for that one, definitely. Yep. Website still in the lead for the digital channel, which is great. Those polls are still going to be there during the session, so feel free to pop in and put your votes in. And I'm actually just going to pass over to Jonny now, who's going to kick off the session.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rebecca. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. We know your time is precious. This is our second cuEngage of 2020, all delivered via video conference, the new normal, as we say. So we're enjoying doing them like this, and so hopefully you're enjoying being part of them as well. So today is the first in a 4-part series that's taking place this week. There's one session then every day at 11 a.m. from now until Friday, and it's all around this theme of digital transformation. So today we're going to spend time just thinking about the digital member journey, which I'll dive into in more detail in a second. And then tomorrow we're going to talk specifically about a brand new Wellington product, which is our brand new mobile app, which we're making available now to customers in July. And then in Thursday, we're going to focus on lending and specifically on decision as a service, which is all about making smarter lending decisions and really streamlining your daily lending operations. And then finally on Friday, we're going to round off the week talking about 2021 and where we go from here, and in particular the Wellington product roadmap. So that's your opportunity, hopefully as having been part of this week-long series, for you to be involved in shaping our future roadmap and having your say in that once we get through 2020, that is. So today we're going to talk specifically about the member, very much of a member focus, but the digital capabilities that we can then use to enhance their experience and which also will improve your operational efficiency. So I'm going to talk for just maybe 10 or 15 minutes, keep it fairly brief, about how we can facilitate the digital member journey today. But then more importantly, we're going to go on to hear from 4 credit unions who are going to talk about their specific experiences, particularly as they relate to how they've reacted to the pandemic and lockdown and what that has meant for the member journey. I would say there will be time for questions at the end, as Rebecca says. So we look forward to a really good interactive session and keep using that chat field. Hopefully we'll give you some food for thought, and hopefully we'll all come away with at least one useful thing from the session. So let's get into it, and I suppose I'll start by saying, and I'm sure you'd all agree, credit unions have really been striving for some time now to offer digital solutions whilst maintaining that excellent member service and community spirit that you're all renowned for. The last few years in particular have seen a massive shift in member behaviour towards online services. Everything from online banking to member onboarding, and now of course straight through loans processing. So I think it's fair to say we've come a long way. However, equally with COVID-19, what that has shown, I suppose, is that our ongoing plans for digital transformation, they're probably more important than ever. And if anything, the need to continue to accelerate our digital plans is going to be key if we're going to be relevant within the community. And I suppose that's the key word here is relevancy. When we think from a member perspective, how do credit unions remain relevant in what we do? So I'm going to just pull up a prop now, which I'm going to talk through in a little bit more detail. This is a poster that we have on our wall within our offices here in Wellington. It's to frame up this whole topic of the member journey. And there's a sequence of events to this, and we're going to think through these as we think about your members and how they interact with your credit union. Now, don't worry, it is a bit of an eye chart, so I'm not expecting you to try and read it. I can see some folks already squinting at the screen. Everybody's going to get a copy of this following the session, and I'm going to give you a quick tour around this as we just think about our members and how we can transform their experience, their digital experience with you. Now, actually, before I do that, let's just take a step back and level set for a second on this whole buzzword of digital and digital transformation. And maybe we'll just dwell on that for a second. We've been hearing about digital for years now, and going digital being the imperative for us all and for all businesses. That's coming through loud and clear from the media, from industry analysts, from regulators, etc., etc. But maybe what's not so clear is just what exactly, what digital transformation, what does it exactly mean for you and your credit union? What are the steps you need to take? Do you need to design jobs around this whole thing? Do you need to hire consultants? What parts of your business strategy need to change? And some of you may be thinking, is it all worth it? All these various digital aspects. So you may be very tired of the phrase, and I suppose like all buzzwords, I guess it gets a bit tired over time. And I suppose love it or hate it, the business mandates behind the term digital transformation, well, they're not really going anywhere, and that's the key thing. And I suppose what are we talking about there? Well, in general terms, what we're talking about is the integration of digital technology into all areas of your business, resulting in that fundamental change in terms of how you operate and in terms of how you deliver value to your members. And I think that's what it's all about in terms of how do your members get value from you. And more than that, even, I would say digital transformation properly implemented, it's also a cultural shift. It requires us all to think slightly differently about how we approach things, how your organization approaches things. It asks us to challenge the status quo, challenge the way we've always done things, to experiment just a little more, and really to get more comfortable trying new things and trying new things more frequently. So let's keep that all in mind. Hopefully that helps frame up what we're talking about here. And back to our poster. Don't worry, we'll zoom in a second. Hopefully this will help illustrate for you in real terms what a digital member journey might look like for your credit union. And we'll start here by introducing two characters. So we've got two personas that we've put together. These are by no means the only types of members that you have in your credit union. They're here for illustration purposes, but hopefully you'll see the impact on the member journey. So firstly, and this is very much in keeping with our Alice in Wonderland theme, which we had grand plans for when we were all going to do face-to-face cuEngage, but stick with it for a bit of fun. So our first member here is the King. As you can see, 62 years of age, has been a lifelong member of the credit union. They have a phone, but it's not a smartphone, and they really just use it for texting their family and friends. They very much are all about face-to-face communication. Typically, they do withdrawals and like to go in to see the staff and have a chat. So what's the scenario here that we're thinking of with this type of member? Well, they really want to be able to support their community, manage their finances through the credit union like they've always done, and probably they don't want to be forced to go online. That's probably the last thing they want, and they prefer that human interaction. And what does success look like for the King of Hearts? Well, ultimately, it's to be able to do their finances, but not to lose that personal touch. So I think ordinarily you might be thinking, well, digital transformation, does it even really apply to a member like this? Well, hopefully in a few seconds we'll see some examples. Secondly, then we have Alice. So this is our second member persona, probably at the opposite end of the scale, right? This is a 19-year-old student, very, very digitally savvy, pretty much does everything online, via their mobile phone. And that's everything from streaming music to shopping to managing their finances. They've probably already got a Revolut account. They've probably got various financial services apps on their phone already. So this is someone who is very much a digital first approach. And if we think then from the perspective of going through a journey with your credit union, what might that scenario look like? So this is Alice. She's thinking about college next year. She's seen an advert, like most things, on Facebook. That's how she's consuming most of her content. And she's seen through Facebook that there's a great interest rate on a credit union loan. And she's thinking about taking up that loan because she's going off to college. What is success for Alice? And this is the key point, I suppose, for her is, well, she wants to be able to join the credit union to avail of that loan, first and foremost. And as an avid smartphone user, she's expecting to do most of it, if not all, online. It's not about necessarily the face-to-face interaction. So let's then go through the journey. And as I say, we're going to send you this, and it's something that you can maybe read and study with your management teams when you take this back in-house. Across the top, you'll see, across the top of the journey graphic, you'll see how these two members go on a journey with you in the credit union. And in particular, they go across 4 key stages. So becoming a member, engaging with the credit union, borrowing, and then transacting. And I'm just going to talk through this journey in a few seconds. Also on the chart, when we send it to you, you'll see some rows across the bottom, and I'll just explain those. We've listed here the Wellington products that sort of facilitate this journey. We've listed out then the member benefits that they can get from engaging using these tools. The benefits to you as a credit union in terms of whether that be efficiencies or streamlining processes. And then finally, we've outlined some of the roadmap items that we're launching currently and that will feed into our ongoing product evolution. So that's our poster end to end. But let's just go back and talk about the journeys, because I promised that this would be about the member. If you think then about the King, our 62-year-old, what does a digital member journey really look like for him? You know, he's been a member already for quite some time. Frankly, he's not borrowing that much, and anyway, you know, he's happy to come in branch and likes meeting the staff. You know, he used to volunteer He likes the human interaction. But as you'll see here, there's no reason why members like this can't have the best of both worlds and really help you, therefore, be a little bit more efficient as you service them. And really, for him, he can do things both digitally and in person. That's entirely possible, and linking those two things together. And who's to say that without some time, a bit of a chat with that member, they won't pick up some online skills and be able to transact online. And already we're seeing this with across our customers. They've brought tellers out from behind the counter. They're engaging with members like this with an iPad or some other technology that is able to show them how they can engage digitally and really just encourage adoption. And it's just about bringing the technology to members like this. But at the very least, even if he's not interested in that, the king can, at least when he's making a withdrawal, he can use a digital signature pad at the counter. He can sign for what he needs to sign for, and effectively he's already able to go paperless. And so you can't really get more digital than that. So we can bring that digital member experience into the in-branch scenario. Then if we think about Alice, so as we've mentioned, Alice isn't a member yet, but through a combination of Facebook and getting redirected to your brochure website, she already knows that there's great loans on offer there if she just becomes a member. And I suppose the good news now is that she can, of course, do all of that online, and she can fully join the credit union and get on board from her mobile, which I'll talk about in a second. Incidentally, one of our customers in Escorthy is an example of a customer who's recently implemented a brand new brochure website. They wanted to be part of the session today and to talk about that, and unfortunately not able to join us, but they've already seen a 15% increase in loan applications just through tailoring and refreshing that brochure website to redirect members in that direction. So just a fantastic result so far. Back to Alice then. So of course she can now, as I've said, join the credit union online. She can do that in a number of different ways. She can do that through digital member onboarding. But actually, here's the thing we're really excited about, and we're going to focus tomorrow's session on, is she can do all these things through the new mobile app as well. So we'll be demoing that tomorrow. But if you just consider, this non-member can go to your website, can then be encouraged to download the mobile app. They can look at that app. They can apply to join via that app. They can upload all their documents. They can verify their ID. They can be accepted by you as a credit union, and then they can start transacting straight away. And they can do all of that via their mobile. So for us, we're extremely excited to talk about this in more detail. And of course, once she's done all of that, she can also then apply for a loan online. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. So that's the first part of the journey in terms of becoming a member and then engaging. If I go to the second half of the poster, so moving from left to right, back to the king, as we've said, he's all about the in-branch experience. Except, of course, maybe sometimes he's in a hurry. Maybe sometimes the credit union is queued out the door and you've got a mass of people in there. We like to see that sometimes, but equally it makes for a longer member experience. So this is when he can use a kiosk instead, and he can be in and out in a fraction of the time using that digital technology within the branch. And I suppose this is an area we're not going to talk about hugely on this session, but it's probably worth considering. As we think about the impact of COVID-19, the impact of social distancing on the in-branch experience, we're already seeing from some of our customers that kiosks are making a significant experience to how the flow of members takes place throughout the branch, and frankly, has the power to make your credit union safer from a COVID-19 perspective. So something that you might want to consider, something to think about as part of your digital member journey. Moving on then, so as I've mentioned earlier, Alice can now complete a loan application via her mobile app. And this is considerable in terms of enabling the end-to-end loans process. And by the way, for those of you in Ireland, she can also now complete the ECU Health self-declaration, and she can do that online too. this is probably the final link in the chain that we've been working on for a while in order to fully complete that online loan application. So I'd say stick around on Thursday. We'll talk more about that loan application process and about decision as a service, just another aspect of streamlining the loans operations. And then finally, on the far right, just as we think about completing this journey, for those of you who have already jumped into current accounts, the fact is current accounts are now available, and the King can think about switching over everything from his old bank and to consolidate everything together in his beloved credit union. Equally then, Alice can avail of the same thing, and she can even have a small overdraft facility. So I suppose from a digital member perspective, and looking towards the future, you know, how much more important are all these things now with open banking on its way and all the opportunities that affords. So look, that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, a very quick review through this little digital member journey graphic that we put together. Hopefully it's been useful to kind of inspire some thought, and I know you'll want to study it and look at it. And hopefully it shows how, you know, the various digital elements kind of knit together for the member experience. You know, maybe there's things in here that you can look at and think about how you could deploy them better, or maybe there's tools in here that you might want to think about bringing to bear on the challenges that you have today. Importantly, if there's anything that I haven't mentioned on here, and I've gone through it very quickly, you know, we'd love to hear from you on Friday when we're talking about our roadmap, about ideas maybe you have about things we could bring to bear on our product roadmap. Now, I'll pause there because in introducing this whole digital member journey, I'm delighted to say we've got 4 credit unions who are going to do the bulk of the talking now and just share some of their experiences. So firstly, I'll introduce Carol McCarg, CEO of First Alliance Credit Union. So Carol's made, you know, really excellent use of online services and digital member onboarding during the pandemic and COVID-19. And Carol, I'll just ask you now to maybe talk through your digital offerings. So I'll run your slides if you just tell me when to go.
Okay, thanks. Okay. So just starting, thanks for inviting us to share our journey. We are based on the Ayrshire coast, so if the accent's too fast, then just let me know. We are a community, and fundamentally we're a community credit union, but we also take social enterprises and we have some payroll members. We're sitting currently 3,800, 560 juniors, 4 full-time staff and 4 part-time, 3 of whom are currently laid off during the pandemic. So we are operating with 3, and we've been in the office from day one. We were able to create that social distance. We have a board of 9 directors who are, although they understand operations in the bigger scheme, they are non-operational and they're a strategic board. Some of our services and products, probably should say we've been with Wellington now for about 12 or 13 years, one of the few and on this side of the water. But I think that's increasing as people look to move to bigger software providers rather than the smaller ones that tended to be in Scotland. Same as yourselves, savings, loans. We have the Optimus debit card that's integrated to Zion. Over here we had the majority of our banks have moved out of the local villages and towns. We've been very mixed, urban, rural. We cover 2 islands as well. We run budget accounts for people who have been maybe struggling, and that's not just people on benefits. We have salaries that come into us. We've just recently introduced the Pay Out Now scheme with the Post Office, which means if somebody loses that debit card, they don't need to come into the office for cash like they used to. We're able to send them a code to their phone and they can go and lift cash at any post office across the UK. So that's been really useful during these kind of difficult and trying times. We also run bill payments, landlord rent payments, especially around about people who have been homeless moving into private accommodation. we pay their landlords direct, and a lot of UC claimants. And we also have local access points, which are just based in local community buildings, the same as and run by volunteers. I'm sure many others already have that as well. Can you just go to the next slide, Jonny? So what were we like before digital? So payments were members paid in the office with cash or debit card, standing orders or payroll deductions came in. And how did we put money out? People sent us emails, so we then had to phone them to make sure it was them, because the emails aren't a secure way of passing on any kind of details for banking transactions. Or they would come into the office and collect either cash, although we limited that to about £100 cash, unless it was for the debit card and it was an emergency. So that all took staff time, and we took loan applications over the phone or in the office. We never utilised paper-based applications. So what do we do now? Now, we'd already started the journey a number of years ago going digital, but we were kind of just taking our time. Members weren't really engaging with online, and part of that was because we weren't pushing it. It was easy for them to phone and book just get their loan and get it paid out, come into the office and sign it off. So now 95-hour payments are by card. So we already had the terminal at the front counter, but for the pandemic we introduced a back office terminal, and also we're waiting to have an online one installed on our website. So they've made a huge difference.
Is now exiting.
Transfers on the phone or via the online account, or transfers are going out through that way. So people go into their online and request a transfer, or they give us a wee phone. The big change for us is that 99% of our loans are now signed off online with e-signatures. That has been tremendous, and it's been pretty challenging during this time because we're short-staffed, because quite a lot of our members have needed support and just to build their confidence in how to sign those forms off. And it's no difficult, it's just they're no reading what's in front of them. So that bit of confidence, just to take them through that. 100% our cash is electronically. We physically do not have any cash in the building presently. And all transactions can be done out with the office. So we've tested that at home, like yourselves usually. I know many are working from home, but we can do that if needed, but we just haven't needed to. And the creation of using the credit transfer files has been tremendous for us as well. Okay, next slide. We've just done some statistics to show you in terms of the usage of our website. You can see it kind of up and down through for January, and then we just go right for January 2019 up. In August 19 we'll be starting to push it for Christmas loans. And then next one, Jonny. Sorry, you're not getting a chance to drink your water. Hope it's water. And then this current year, just look at the growth between the start of the new financial year and the start of COVID. So you can see huge growth in terms of people utilising the digital solutions that we've introduced. That's really registered on website, and they mean to do transfers or loan applications. Next slide, please. So we just wanted to look at the difference it's created for us. So we've got the ability, like yourselves, to work from home or within a closed office, which it is. Members can self-service. It's much easier for the banking reconciliation to be done on the daily basis then, because we've got the credit transfer files and all payments are being managed digitally in and out. It's a much more effective use of staff time. As I said, that we'll start to see even more effective use of staff time when we're not supporting as many people going through signing loans offline. They'll become used to that. And it's a much more efficient member service. We also operate, we don't have individual roles as such, so it's became a one-stop shop for the member. So anybody can put through that loan, and unless if it's a top-up, we're all trained to make a decision on new loans, and anybody can transfer money unless it's with policy. Maybe like recently we've all had, I suppose, people asking for shares when they've got a loan tied against it. So that then would pass to myself or Amanda, our senior worker. There's also less scope for that human intervention errors that we all make.
Is now exiting.
And also much more meaningful reports for the board in terms of statistical information. And very important, live and up-to-date information for our members. Next slide. So the last slide really is what's next for us, and we'll be more than delighted to join in the roadmap for 2021. We currently don't have sort code and account numbers. We would love a current account. That's the biggest drum we've been banging since we lost the ABCO Credit Union current account. Our members definitely request and need that within our community. So we're looking forward to introducing the current account, and we did have some early discussions with the Irish League CUSO, but we just couldn't make it happen, which was a shame. So we need that clearing bank linked to Zion so it can be a straight through transfer process for members and for non-card holders. One of your bugbears was it takes a member can join online and they can see their account, but we actually can't transact in that online account. Like we can't send them a loan form for 24 hours. So that's a bugbear that we hope will be sorted through the roadmap. As I said, online payments linked to your card, we're looking forward, linked to your web, we're looking forward to, and just continuing that growth in membership. I think we all recognise that this is the new way to do things. We will always be here for those members like the King of Hearts who just wants to come in and have a blether. That's important to some of your members, and we've made time on the phone to do that with some of the older members as well, who just are quite lonely during this isolation time, but also to make sure that we are encouraging them to take up that online to give some more time to develop the business and grow the business. That's kind of been our experience. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carol. Just really refreshing to get your experience in the last couple of weeks. What was really interesting there is how you talked about how you've essentially had to push things to roll them out. And it's about getting that engagement in place. You know, when you think about rolling out e-signatures, what that took, and maybe, you know, preparing for without knowing the pandemic was on its way, but you laid some really good groundwork then that really stood to you whenever the pandemic arrived. So also great to see the website. So thanks again. Really appreciate that. And I know if there's any questions, we'll put them in the chat for now, and then we can come back to them at the end. So fantastic. I'm going to move on then and introduce Mark Ryan next. So Mark Ryan, ICT Manager at Core Credit Union. And Mark's going to be discussing how they very quickly reacted to COVID-19 and really promoted their services to their members. So Mark, I'll hand over to you. I think you're going to share your own slides. So over to you.
Thanks, Jonny. I think I have it there, do I? I just need to get the
little sharing button. Hopefully, It should do it for you.
So hopefully you can all see the website there.
Can indeed.
Yep. So I suppose the first thing that we did was on the 3rd of March, we actually updated our website with a permanent banner, which was tips to avoid having to come into the office. So at that point, I suppose COVID was on everybody's radar, and we were already starting to see social distancing being talked about. So we introduced this landing page there with which was constantly updated. It gave us the member tips on COVID-19, but more importantly, I suppose, we introduced these 4 buttons, which were direct links then to the different sections on CU Online. So if members wanted to carry out a transaction but were not registered on online services, they got the button there, and that brought them straight through to the member registration page. And similarly, if they were registered, the button here brought them straight in to log in. So the main thing was to try and make that as easy for our members. So the next thing that we did was on the 15th of March, we emailed every member that we had our emails. We had an email address for. So we sent out 15,000 emails via MailChimp, and the email that we actually sent out was this one. So what it was to again reinforce the idea that if people wanted to transact or contact the credit union, they could do without coming into the office. So the email they got through had again the buttons down here, and the direct links here in the actual email. So we had about a 70% open rate on that email, which was fantastic. Every email thing that we did had the touch points, is what we call them, to log in, to go to the website. What the effect of that was is online registrations kind of went through the roof. One of the things that helped us big times on this was the SMS pins. So prior to this, people had to get their pins via mail, ordinary mail, and Wellington changed that over to SMS pins. That was really, really important because it maintained the members' impetus to register and actually start using the site. The next thing that we did on the 16th of March was, so it was only a day after this one, we sent out this because what we started to see was people requesting savings out. We had a business rule in place that we didn't allow members to withdraw savings on CU Online, so we quickly changed that. We sent out an email to all those members, telling them that the option there to withdraw their unplayed share stamps online was available to them without having to come into the offices. One thing, by the way, we did do was we always told people that if they needed to contact us, give us a call and we'll talk them through the process, especially for those people who had never used the online services before. On the 20th of March, then we sent out an SMS to everybody that we don't have emails for. So there was roughly, I think, around 12,000 SMSs went out, and it had a link to, again, the landing page, the COVID-19 landing page, which I have here. Then the other thing that we did was every messages, all the messages that we had on our website were replicated in our branches as well. So we had the info TVs with the same messages up for people that they could do all of these transactions online. Because this is still prior to the lockdown that we were getting people informed about this, I suppose. The staff as well, the frontline staff, were informing members of what they could do online. Full lockdown then, I suppose, happened on the 24th of March. One of the things that we quickly introduced, which we hadn't in place, but we do have now, is drawdown loans online, so the electronic signatures. So that came in place, and the member now can do a full loan process from start to finish on CU Online. This has actually seen a massive feedback. This month, about 20% of all of our loans are going out start to finish on CU Online, and the feedback that we've got from it has been very, very good. The other thing that we introduced was the loan flexibility request. So again, there was a landing page where people could fill this in without having to come into the office to do a loan flexibility request. They filled in all their details there and it was sent through, and our credit control team picked it up and contacted our members. The final thing that we did then was in April 30th, we sent out another email, which basically covered everything that we had done on the whole process up to COVID-19. But it was when I was looking at this and putting out the timelines, we actually had everything in place and our members informed before the lockdown occurred, which was great. So we weren't reacting to that total shutdown and trying to deal with it there. Just some stats on our registrations. Our registrations are over 10,000 now, and the total online registrations are up 20% prior to COVID. Our call volumes went from an average of 130 a day to about 400 a day on the peak, and we had about 400 payment break requests. I suppose the way we could do this so quickly was we had much of these resources in place already, and that was down to our strategic plan. Was part of our strategic plan is to digitize a lot of our services. So we had the physical hardware to do this, in that we had a lot of laptops that people could work from home. They were already set up with VPNs, and they could do the phone access through their laptops as well. We had the ability as well to move staff to different resources. So as the counters went quiet, we put people onto the phones because the phones just went through the roof. And similarly, once the payment breaks start coming out, we could take people into and put them into credit control to start contacting members about doing the payment breaks. And finally, I suppose one of the main things that we were in the process of doing and we quickly introduced was to push out Teams, Microsoft Teams, to all of our staff members and our board, because this allowed us to continue with our meetings, our weekly and our monthly meetings, but it also allowed us to maintain our training. So we could still do the training and have our meetings with all staff to get the feedback, to bring them up to date on what was happening, and keep them informed so they could inform the members. So yeah, it was, I suppose it was a good use of the existing technology and the existing resources that we had in place into a new method, and that's how we could react. That's how we reacted so quickly.
Fantastic, Mark. That's great. Yeah, look, it's just a perfect case study of bringing to bear that planning, but then the agility just to redeploy resources and use what you've got very, very quickly. So just fantastic. I suspect there will be questions on all these case studies that we go through. So I'm conscious of time, and we'll maybe keep motoring, but do save your questions to the end. We'll maybe move on, and I want to just introduce our next speaker, guest speaker who's going to join us is Joanne Shelley from Cueloin Credit Union. So Cueloin have had to promote their services differently due to COVID, and Joanne will be taking us through now how they did this. I'm going to focus on talking about the community hub. So delighted to have you, Joanne, and we'll pass over to you.
Great. Okay. Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you all. I'll just share my screen now. Can you see that? Yeah.
We can indeed. Yeah.
Okay. So for my slides today, I'm going to concentrate on the social media strategy we adopted during the lockdown, just on the community side of what we were doing. So not necessarily talking about any of the commercial things that we did for our products and services at this time. Maybe just to put it into perspective for you, during COVID-19, I suppose there was 3 messages that we were focusing on communicating to members and to the community at large. And they were, I suppose, some of the essential messages around COVID-19 in relation to some of the points that Mark actually touched on there with public and staff safety, how we were supporting our members in terms of loan breaks, loan flexibility, that type of thing, and also just members to use some of the online facilities that we had, or to use their debit cards more, or basically not to come into the branch as frequently as they might have done before, or to give them an option of another way of managing their funds. We also, from a loans perspective, I suppose we ran a Myths and Facts campaign, or a Did You Know campaign. So just a very light touch reminder for members about what we do and how our loans operate. And then slowly, as restrictions lifted, we started moving into campaigns around We're Still Lending, how to consolidate your loans, and finally into home improvements, personal loans and car loans. But as I say, today I want to focus on what we did from a community perspective. And we launched, I suppose, 4 community campaigns that we ran during the COVID lockdown. And I suppose really they were basically a COVID fund that we launched. We had a community hub, and they were sort of around April, May, we were running those. And then into June, we ran a Great June giveaway. And then we had a bursary that has just actually, we just launched last week, or we just ran our campaign on that last week. The objectives of these, I suppose, was at the time, I suppose, if you think back to it, we were in the middle of lockdown, and this was sort of end of March, early April. People were nervous. Lots of what was going on in the TV and radio and the news channels was about, the numbers of people who contacted the virus. Sadly, the number of people who had died. There was a lot of bleakness, I suppose, at the time. And we wanted to offer some to our members where we're sort of that they could see that we were still supporting them and that the community was still at the heart of everything that we do. And the first thing we did was we sort of looked at it and said, right, okay, we can support members and the community from a monetary point of view. So we have a community fund that we would normally have launched in April, and we didn't launch it at the time. But what we did was we ring-fenced some of the money and set up a community COVID-19 fund. We then looked at creating the community hub, which was basically combination of videos and podcasts, and the focus on that was really on member well-being, really. So I suppose really content that allowed people to listen to things that wasn't about the sadness that was going on around us, and also keeping in mind that everybody was in their homes, in different environments. Some people were living on their own, some people were worried about people in hospital, some people had sadly relatives or friends who passed away, some of us had children with us and we were trying to work from home. So our community hub, the idea was to try and come up with themes and topics that would cater for all of those audiences, really. And I suppose we wanted to offer some local businesses in the area another way of profiling themselves during this time. Obviously, we thought it was a great opportunity to reach younger audiences, which can be a struggle for credit unions. And we figured, the digitally entrenched younger audiences, the teens, the early 20s, I suppose the options of what they could be doing at this time were restricted because obviously they couldn't really go out. So we felt that if we could create engaging content for them, we might just capture an audience that we had struggled to catch before. And then the other thing, I suppose, the other objective for us was we didn't have anything to post really on our social media channels at the time, because all of the sponsorships that we have in place with different clubs and organisations had come to a halt because nobody was doing anything, so there was no activity, and we didn't really want to lose any followers, and that had taken us so long to build up. So that was one objective as well, just to keep the audiences that we had captured previously. So just briefly to explain, the COVID-19 fund, as I say, was money that was ring-fenced that would be available immediately to support any vulnerable groups in our community. In order to identify who needed help, we contacted local volunteer groups and charities that we had worked with in the past and asked them, did they know of anybody in the community who needed funding from us or anything from us? And we also contacted the HSE in Kildare and Offaly, because that's where our branches are based, and asked them the same question. And I suppose there was 4 different areas that wanted support from us. We found child and teen mental health clinics, local nursing homes, Meals on Wheels and wheelchair associations. And that's, I suppose, where we channeled our funds and we gave money to them. In relation to the community hub, what we did, as I said, with the community hub was we reached out, I suppose, to local businesses and local people in our area, and asked them, do they have any ideas of themes or topics they could help us with in order to make our social media pages a hub for the community. That's really what we were trying to do, and we wanted to have daily videos that we could put up there to entertain all of the community during the pandemic. And I suppose what we found was we had a Zoom call internally. We did a bit of a brainstorming session, and we identified that we needed things like maybe a teacher who could give us ideas of what you could do with kids, or maybe somebody who could do some art for the kids. We wanted maybe some personal trainers. We wanted somebody who could show you how to cut your hair, a nail technician, all those kind of things. Those really practical things that people were kind of looking for at the time of the lockdown. The audience and who we were trying to reach, it was predominantly going to be families and the kind of 30 plus age group, but we did also want to try and reach that teen audience too. We wanted to make sure that the 4 areas that we are located in our community were, I suppose, represented. So we wanted whoever was giving us videos to be from those different areas. And we also spoke to the clubs that we sponsor. So we have about 13 or 14 clubs in the Common Bond that we have 3-year sponsorship deals with. So we reached out to them and said, will you make sure that you share all of this data as well, or all these videos, just so that we could get out to as many people as possible. And also in return, if you have any interesting videos that you're doing on your channels, can you tag us in? And that's kind of basically what the Community Hub was. In terms of how well it did for us, or the measurement of it, we started this in early May, and I suppose we consistently saw good stats across that period for the whole 3 to 4 week period that we ran these videos and podcasts. And the biggest jump was in Facebook and Twitter, although Instagram performed really well also. Our reach, I suppose, in Facebook, I suppose nearly 43,000 people saw these videos in total. And in terms of actions or people who did things with it, or liked or shared it or moved it on, we had an engagement of nearly 11,000. So for us on Facebook, that was the strongest that we'd ever had, and was a real success for us. Twitter, we are relatively new to, as in the last 12 months, and we've struggled to get people to follow us, and just to engage strongly with members and non-members, I suppose, the community on Twitter. And what we saw there was really, I suppose, at one point the impressions jumped to nearly 37,000. So that's just people who we got in front of that we might not have gotten in front of before. And what we saw there as well was that was matched, and that they came back and they actually visited our Twitter page, or they came back and had a look at our profile. And we saw again that visitor return jumped to 182% at different times during the Community Hub being active. So that was really positive for us. I'm just going to give you these are snippets of the types of things that we had up on our pages at the time. So you can see there the 2 kids who were their mum was a teacher, and they did things like baking. They did an art tie-dye thing. They did lots. There was 3 or 4 videos from them, which was great for kids, and they could do it either on their own, or maybe sometimes they needed adult supervision for certain things. The Kildare GAA, who we are involved in sponsorship with, gave us a number of different skills and challenges to share with our members. Then we had art from Tracy, about 5 different videos from her. We had a local barber who showed us, all the men, how to cut their hair. And you can actually see on the people that reached, like you can see there for the barber, over nearly 10,000 people looked at that. So that was fun. We also had our nail technician there. Marie did a few different videos for us on how to care for your nails, or just beauty tips during the pandemic. We had somebody from, I suppose, a fitness studio show us different exercises to be doing. Again, the Kildare GAA did a few different videos for us. And then we had our podcast series. So basically we ran 3 different podcasts over that month. And we picked 3 people from different parts of the Common Bond, so representing the 4 areas that we operate in. And they were all very much so entrenched in sport. They had local businesses, or they were just well known in the area. And they kind of gave us 30-minute interviews on how they ran their business and their success on the pitch and the field, and tips and mental health tips and things like that. So again, it was just the idea that TV and radio stations at the time, everything was COVID related. So we wanted to offer members something different, that if they needed a break from it all, that was something they could tune into. Then coming into June, I suppose, the phases were coming in, restrictions were being lifted a little bit, and we wanted to, bring members, I suppose, a good news story after such a bleak time. We had postponed our members draw, so we have a €20,000 members draw that's run monthly, and for April and May we postponed it. So in June we basically had a bumper giveaway of €60,000, and we had we ran it over 5 days, and we had 15 winners over those 5 days. And on Facebook in particular, we saw a 281% increase on post engagements versus the previous week. So it was really, really strong, and lots of comments and members. And that's just some of the snippets of comments or what we were doing online at the time. And again, it was just a good news story to share with members in June. Then I suppose the final campaign that we ran was the Bursary Bash. The Bursary Bash, basically, we have a student bursary award that we give it every year. We're in our 8th year this year of doing it, so it's something that we do all the time. It's targeted at 6th year students in the 6 local schools in our area. And basically, we end up with 18 finalists who are submitted from the schools to us to be interviewed and considered to win the bursary. And 2 winners win the bursary, and basically they get €6,000 over 3 years towards their 3rd level education. And usually what we do is we host it in a local hotel, we have an award ceremony, there's a dinner, there's a whole lot that goes on just to make them feel special on the night, and then the award is given out. And needless to say, we weren't able to do that this year. But what we did want to do was something that engaged students rather than the parents or the teachers, I suppose. And we felt that doing something on Instagram was, really where we were going to, I suppose, engage them best. And we had seen people online over the lockdown doing things. So, I don't know, Sophie Ellis-Bextor with her Friday night disco in her kitchen and all that kind of thing. And we just thought, what, that is a bit of fun. It's going to be 30 minutes. It'll be easy to manage. Why don't we do something like that? So that's where the Bursary Bash came from. And last Wednesday, basically what we did was for the 18 students who were finalists for our bursary, on Wednesday morning, we gave them a goodie bag delivered to their home. And that had sort of just had treats. It had merchandise from us. They all got €250 lodged into their account, and then they got invited to come on and watch our Bursary Bash that was going to be live streamed that night at 7 o'clock, where we would announce the 2 winners. And we used a local DJ to do that for us. So it was great, 30 minutes, short and sharp. It broke all previous records that we'd had on Instagram previously. And we saw a 27% bounce in followers just from that alone. So it was really successful. That's an example there of the goodie bag that they got, the little balloon, and their names on a box, and it was delivered to their home. And that was just a thank you note that we got that day, actually, from one of the girls who had received a goodie box. And then just in terms of content, because content is king, I suppose, on social media. This is just one of the girls opening her goodie bag. I'll see if this will play for me. And she's one of our winners. So this is her getting her delivery of her box, and on the balloon it says that she's won. And we were able to use this content on Instagram, because everything was done purely on Instagram, so that we could target the younger audience. But like, these videos were great. We were able to share it up on Instagram. And again, it was just such an engaging content and a lovely moment to capture as well for her.
Brilliant.
You can see that there.
Fantastic, Joanne.
Yeah.
Really, really good. It's not planned for us, but hopefully we can get on there and get a look at it.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then just very quickly, I suppose, just to finish up, I'll just go through the stats. I suppose
fantastic.
We have just in terms of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, it's just been, I suppose, in terms of audience and interest, it's been a good news story all around. Instagram is the biggest place that has changed things, because the community hub and the bursary was shared so much by the teenage market and kids. And I suppose everything was up for us. Facebook, we grew by nearly 200 followers. Instagram in particular, when we had 300 new followers, which was massive for us. And Twitter, which I was saying we're new to, we have nearly 150 new followers based on that campaign that we ran. So that's basically it for me.
Joanne, brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing that. That was fantastic. I suppose we just thought that was a brilliant example of bringing that community focus that it's at the core of the credit union movement, and bringing that focus to bear on how to be connected in a very disconnected world that lockdown kind of put on us. And just really goes to show how digital engagement can actually enhance your community focus. So look, warm congratulations on some of your numbers there. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, listen, folks, we're gonna keep going and do save your thoughts for all the speakers. We've got one more credit union now we're going to hear from. I'd like to just introduce Connor Ralph. So Connor's head of marketing at Member First. So perhaps continuing on from similar things to what Joanne shared there. I suppose digital services they've all proven themselves during the pandemic, but equally it's important that you're marketing them effectively. So Connor, we'll hand over to you and just talk through some of your marketing campaigns that you've carried out recently.
Thanks, Jonny. I don't know if you can see my slides yet.
Not yet. Oh, they're coming. There we go. Can see them now.
Grant.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, so I'm going to speak more so about how we promote our digital services and how that's helped through COVID to help our members when they couldn't come into the branches. So all of what we do when we get a new service from Wellington, we look at our touchpoint map, we call this, and this kind of sets out the whole member journey from awareness across to loyalty. So we look at all these different touch points that we have, the interactions we have with our members, and how we're going to create content at each of these interactions that will encourage our members to use our digital services. So on the top half there, you have remote, which is mostly digital services, but also our over the phone with our digital hub. And then we also have our physical, like our in-branch interactions. But just because it's a digital service doesn't mean that physical interactions aren't important. So we still use these as an opportunity to have, say, flyers in branch or a staff member walking the queue. So we can still promote our digital services at this point as well. And everything that we do in our content strategy is based on the data. So we look at what the members want and we communicate the offering to suit their needs. So one of the really useful tools we use is CU Insight from Wellington. And our digital hub then is our new, we've merged our loans hub, which is our credit underwriting department, and our member services center. So all phone calls come into the digital hub and then they get fed out depending on what the member is looking to do. So from the CU Insight side, we get our quant data. So things like, for example, last year we would have had a look at this, and often you'd have the notion that young people would maybe be online savvy and we don't need to worry about them for online access. But we found that 60% of 18 to 25s didn't actually have CU online access. So it's things like this that CU Insight can help with. And the digital hub side, then it's great to have a team up there that's constantly interacting with the members remotely and getting a feel for the experience that they're having with us. So things like the members not knowing how to register on our website. So in isolation, this might be a throwaway remark, but when we get members every day asking us this, then it's time to improve the experience and change something definitely. And we have this mantra in marketing here. Remember, first we say perception is reality. So even if we think we have a great digital service, if the member doesn't have a good experience and they say that the product isn't up to scratch, then they're right essentially. So what we need to do is be confident in the services we have, and the language that we use when we're marketing these services will help to influence the member experience. So if we're confident about the services and if we explain them in a simple way and work with the members to improve their experience, the chances are that member experience will improve and then they will enjoy the service and continue to use it as well. So basically we're controlling the conversation that we have and we're influencing their perception of the services that we offer on digital. So on the right there is just an example of the mobile app coming soon. We've got some content ready to go for this. So we've had a lot of trouble with members in the last couple of years forgetting their pins and passwords, and it's constantly ringing up and issuing a new password. So just with this simple poster, we're able to alleviate a lot of that stress, and straight away we've told them no more pins and passwords, you've nothing to worry about, and straight away the member experience is improved before they've even downloaded the app. So it's this kind of thing that can influence their perception and get them to use the digital services more confidently as well. Just to go back then to CU Online launch, this was last year, CU Online Plus. So month on month, we're up 77% in monthly registrations, and this is pre-COVID as well. So we've obviously seen even more users since then, and then we're up 30% active users pre-COVID as well. And it really helped us. All this content, all these examples you see, we've been able to use when COVID hit as well. So it was great to have similar to what Mark said, we had a landing page on the website for coronavirus, and we were able to link members to these services that we have and provide the content at all the different touch points. And it really showed the value of having all that content ready to go, and then to repost it basically when COVID hit, and we were able to improve the member experience once again and show that we're there for our members. Just to go through a few of these. So on the bottom left is the landing page we have for online banking. So this is really helpful for search engine optimization. And then any of the ads that we place on social media, on Google Ads, will all link back to this landing page, and then the member can go and see the item that suits them and sign up from there as well. Then on the top right, that goes back to the digital hub. Like I said, we get the information from them saying that members were struggling to register. So we made a video series. One of those videos was how to register for online access, a list there of what you'll need, and a 4-step process, quick 1-minute video, just allowing the members to self-serve as well in the future. Then the pin by SMS was a massive thing for us. So this kind of reinforces the idea that we had a launch of CEO Online probably this time last year maybe. But then pin by SMS came later on. But just because it's not a full product launch, it's probably one of the best features for member experience that we've seen. So it's only a one feature thing, but it's been really helpful for us, and we've got a lot of new signups since that. So just because it's only one feature doesn't mean that you can't shout about it, and it really improved the member experience for us. So that was definitely a learning as well. And then the bottom right then is one of our physical interactions. So this is a little like passport sized piece of card that we have on every counter in the branches. And we find that you would probably have to work a little bit harder to convert someone to a digital service if they're using the branch all the time. So we've got a list of the 8 most frequently asked questions at the counter, and maybe a staff member can interact with the member, showing them the different services that CEO Online can offer, and they can point out each one and convert them in that way. And so that's been really helpful for us as well. Just a final point, I think it's really important that we're all confident in our services. We would have a perception among some members that we're old-fashioned, we're backwards, but we've come a long way, and I think our digital services are up there with the best. And this is a piece of research done by Built for Mars in the UK. They did a user experience test of all the UK banks. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this already. Just one of the metrics they did was the number of clicks to create an account. Revolut obviously top of the pile for user experience across a lot of areas, but if we look at where we're at now with digital onboarding, we're in second place with 35 clicks. So it's really goes to show how far we've come, and like we're really up there. So we should be confident in the services, the digital services that we offer, and by communicating in a confident way and explaining how simple the process is, we're impacting the member experience. And it's just really about the content, giving the perception of a positive member experience, and it gets mirrored then when the member uses the products. That's all from me, Jonny.
Brilliant, Conor. That's fantastic, and again, just great to see some of the statistics that you pulled together there. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey that we've all been on. In the lead up to COVID, and then since then, it does feel like things have accelerated. Great to see that statistic there at the end. We're constantly benchmarking ourselves against the best. So great that you're keeping tabs on the number of clicks, and we keep pushing on there and keep trying to emphasize the most streamlined member experience that's possible. So listen, I think we're at the stage, we've run over a little bit, but I do want to make sure there's time for questions. So let me just share my questions screen, and we'll open up the floor now to any comments from anyone who wants to contribute. You'll have to unmute yourself, and then delighted to hear whatever questions are out there.
We have a couple in through the chat, which I'll kick off with. Jonny, I think this one would be for you. Does Wellington IT provide guidance to members for e-signing of documents on CE Online Plus whenever a document is issued for signing?
We do. We can do. We should probably revisit that. That's from Carol Mulcahy. So yeah, Carol, we'll take a note of that. I think Tim is probably on this call as well, so we'll circle back with you and others that might need that. But certainly, yeah, I think how you roll out e-signatures is kind of key to adoption, as Carol from First Alliance mentioned there back at the start. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Another question, Mark, I think this was for you in terms of your email about pledged shares. Karen was asking, what are stamps? I think in the email it mentioned stamps.
Yeah, stamps are, I suppose, something that came historically. So many years ago, members used to have saving stamps. So they were a physical stamp that people saved and they could cash in for a particular purpose or whatever. So it might be £100 that they'd saved in these stamps. So it's just a electronic version of that. In its essence, what it is, it's a saving scheme that is not pledged against a loan, or it doesn't earn a dividend or anything like that. It's like a saving scheme that members use for a particular purpose and then withdraw the money from it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hopefully that clears things up. I know Karen had to pop off. Another question, which Mark, I think I'm just going to ask you because you're the IT person. Don't know. Don't worry about it. Carol's asking Teams, we do not have microphones or cameras on the staff PCs. Can we use the teller camera for Scion in Teams? But if you can't do that,
you should be able to use the cameras. Are the camera should be fine. You don't really actually need cameras for Teams. People can still join in without the use of cameras. I would really tell people to start looking at Teams as a way of talking internally with so many people working from home, or if you have a multi-branch credit union, it is just a fantastic piece of software and very, very easy to use, as we can all see here.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll just open it up for a few seconds. Does anybody want to unmute their mic and ask any questions? Oh, sorry, Carol's just further elaborated. She wanted the camera for interactive training sessions, really.
Yep. Yeah, the camera should work.
All possible, yeah.
Yeah, I know we have older cameras here that we use and they work fine.
Okay, perfect. Let me just see. Thanks, Carol. Kira is saying, I'm finding we're still limited in our member consents. Are there plans to improve how these are recorded, updated in Scion?
Is this with regard to GDPR consents?
I'm not sure, Kira. Yes, yep.
Okay, yeah, I mean, look, we are continuing to look at how that flows through. I think it's probably for a separate session to kind of go through in detail what that might look like, or how that process flows through for you, Kira. So we might take that one offline and just see how that plays out on Scion. One perhaps maybe for the product roadmap discussion on Friday, I think.
Sure, yeah, that's a good shout actually. Another question from Siobhan, is there a possibility to get more how-to videos with an option to add our own branding? If Emma's on the call, maybe Emma?
Yeah, I'm happy to look at that one. I think when it comes to how-to videos and tutorials, it possibly is more up to the credit union to create their own videos, because each will be unique to members, kind of like how Member First did. We could certainly look into it and see if there's any sort of, I suppose, a collective will to have some of those. However, one of the things we do want to look at, we were talking about, is having some more sessions of looking at best practice examples. To me, that will fall under, I suppose, communication and marketing communications, and seeing if we could get, I know Connor mentioned Member First have created their own videos, would it be useful for you to actually see how they create those and get an idea of costs as well associated with creating those types of videos. So it's something that we can certainly look into. But I would suggest that those videos come from the credit unions, but we can certainly look into it.
Thanks, Emma. Is there any other questions? Somebody want to unmute or pop in any other questions? I'll just give a wee second. Okay, we'll leave it there. Everyone will receive a recording of this session later on today. And just as we did mention, there was a little Sprott prize of an Amazon voucher, which today will go to Carol from Link. So I will email you separately with details on that. So I'll just pass back over to you, Jonny.
Brilliant. Listen, it's just for me, it just remains for me to say thank you to everyone for joining, but a special thanks to all the speakers that contributed today. You know, the spirit of cuEngage is all about getting credit unions together, huddled around the technology that we're all using and making it better, and you know, challenging each other. I certainly learned loads today, so thank you again to all four who brought really different perspectives. But we really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you all throughout the week on the rest of this cuEngage. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.